Good afternoon. Konnichiwa. Thank you so much for stopping by the Buddhist Temple of Salinas for the 2026 Autumn Festival. I hope that everybody enjoyed so far for your stay with us. My name is Hibiki Murakami. I'm the resident minister of this temple. Hibiki is my first name, and Junkyo is my Buddhist name. I came from Japan, and recently I was transferred to this temple last October. I started the ministry as doing by myself after leaving my previous temple in Nishihongami in the Southern California. I used to have my associate besides me. Then I graciously transferred here, so I'm liking this climate and nice people and nice fresh foods out here. It's so nice out here. So I'd like to give a presentation about the history of our community, how developed this temple. I'm believing that it's maybe helpful for you to understand what kind of spirits run throughout us. And of course, the Buddhism, the introduction of Buddhism, which may be giving that for 30 minutes. So before we begin, I'd like to ask a quick question. So how many of you are visiting this temple for the first time? Okay, thank you. And how many of you are visiting a Buddhist temple for the first time? A Buddhist temple for the first time. Oh, thank you. I appreciate your curiosity and interest. So, wonderful. So, okay. That helps me in this one review. So, I'd like to give you a brief history such how the Buddhist Temple of Salinas began and how it has grown into the community you see today. My apologies in advance for that screen is kind of small. I hope to, as much as possible, I enlarge the letters, but still need some far a little bit. I hope it's not too much, too long. The history, okay, speaking of this first, the history of Japanese American community in Salinas Valley dates back to around 1900. At that time, sugar beets were one of the area's major agricultural products, creating a strong demand for labor. So seeking new opportunities, many Japanese immigrants came to Salinas, but not always directly from Japan, but often by way of Hawaii, Canada, or Mexico. These pioneers laid the foundation of what would become the Japanese American community in Salinas. As these immigrants began building their lives here, they sought more than just work. They also longed for a place where they could find spiritual support through Buddhism. As you know, many Japanese believe in Buddhism as their faith. But there was still no Buddhist temple in Salinas. Ministers were invited from the Bostonville Buddhist Temple to conduct Buddhist services in the home of a local Japanese. A few years later, in 1924, a temporary temple was established near what is now Market Way Soon after, land was purchased on this California street where the present temple is still standing, and the first permanent building was constructed. By the way, this picture is the only remaining picture with the temporal building on the marketplace. For this reason, 1924 is recognized as the official founding year for us. And in 1926, Reverend Shimakawa arrived from Japan as the temple's first resident minister. Surprisingly, he was only 25 years old back then, very young. But under his leadership, temple activities flourished. During this same time period, the city of Salinas itself was entering into the growing period. It's like a golden age. Its agricultural economy boomed and shifted from sugar beets to lettuce production, and the population increased dramatically. By the 1930s, it is estimated that at least 200 Japanese were living and working in the Salinas Valley out of 10,000 populations. Then the temple continued to grow alongside the community. In 1928, additional land was purchased next to the temple, and the first multi-purpose building was constructed. Membership had grown to approximately 250 families, including the satellites, the temples, and the temple had 3 resident ministers who traveled through other regions to conduct services. One of the most treasured symbols of this early history still stands. If you are aware or not, it's in the parking lot, which is the temple bell. So this is the temple bell and the bell tower. You can still see exactly the same one in the parking lot. This bell was imported from Kyoto, Japan, directly to commemorate the temple's 10th anniversary. The bell weight is approximately 2,500 pounds. Yeah, it's heavy. The members believe that their temple should have an authentic Buddhist bell. They placed the order in Japan, and after a long journey across the Pacific, it finally arrived here in Salinas. Today, nearly a century later, the bell still stands as a witness to see the temple's history and the dedication of those early members. During the 1920s and 1930s, the temple flourished together with the local community and became an important spiritual home for the Japanese Americans. I'd like to play a history footage as it was recorded for the dedication parade for this bell. I found a video from the file. So these are the traditional Chigo parade, the children that parades into the temple for dedicating. Video notes that it's recorded 100 years ago. We can imagine how old they are now. So this is PhD affirmation ceremony. So they are officially becoming a Buddhist. So the minister is touching the shades, the razors. That's it, like a symbol ritual. Okay, excuse me. There we go. But the peaceful period would soon come to an abrupt end. In December 1941, everything changed with the attack on Pearl Harbor. Soon after the United States entered World War II, the temple's minister and several community leaders were arrested by the FBI under suspicion of being enemy agents. Not long afterward, Japanese Americans who are the West Coast were forced to leave their home. Here in Salinas area, families were first gathered at the Salinas Royal Grounds before being sent to incarceration camps throughout the states. So this is the air vision of the pictures that Salinas Royal Grounds, according to the record, approximately 3,000 Japanese or the Americans who have a Japanese ancestry were sent, once temporarily assembled to this Royal Grounds from this Monterey Bay area and the Santa Cruz area. In total, approximately 120,000 Japanese Americans were incarcerated during the war. The temple itself were used to store the belongings of families who had been forced to leave. After the war, they served as temporary housing for those returning homes to these Salinas. But when the war finally ended, people gradually came back to Salinas. However, the temple's membership was significantly lost, down to 1/10 of what has been before war. Both the temple and the Japanese American community had to begin everything from almost nothing. Yet, even during those difficult years, they were not alone. One important part of this history I would like to highlight is the support they received from the wider Salinas community. For example, through and LaPorte Mortuary, which still continues to serve Salinas today, not only continued to assist Japanese American families during the war, but also watched over this absent temple while no one was here, helping to protect the property from damage and neglect. To me, this is one of the most meaningful stories in our temple's history. It reminds us that this temple has never been sustained only by Japanese Americans. It has also been supported by the kindness, friendship, and trust of the broader Salinas community. As the community slowly recovered after the war, another turning point came to us. In 1953, a new refugee policy opened its door to a new wave of immigration from Japan. As a result, approximately 60 Japanese families settled in Salinas. Many of them came from Kagoshima Prefecture, which is the southern part of Japan, by the way, Kagoshima is famous for the hot springs and many nice food out there. I think Turkey, because I'm from the same region, Kyushu Island, if you are interested in it. Then their arrival actually brought new energy to us. Activities that have been interrupted by the war gradually resumed, and once again, the temple became a lively gathering place for the community. One of the best examples of this revival is this Salinas Candle Club. The Candle Club actually existed even before the war, but once they dismissed for reason. Thanks to the new leadership from the wave of the new generation from Kagoshima, their activity was re-established, and even today, Kendo practice continues here at this temple. In contrast to the steady expansion of its membership, the temple facility was needed to adjust to the new demands. Thanks to the generous support from the Ichikawa family, additional land was acquired, and in 1976, the current this main building, including the behind classrooms, was completed. In 1984, a new plan began to replace that aging original multi-purpose building. After the 10 years, the fundraising and planning, finally, a new gymnasium was completed to commemorate the temple's 70th anniversary. Over the years, the temple has become much more than a place of Buddhist services. These buildings enable as a home for cultural programs, youth activities, Japanese language school, educational classes, and even community gatherings as well. Like many organizations around the world, however, the temple faced another great challenge during the COVID pandemic. Services and events were suspended. Many activities moved online. Even private services had to be held outdoors with only a small numbers. Fortunately, those difficult years eventually came to an end. In 2024, this temple celebrated its centennial anniversary. As is being shown, the past years were not straightforward for one another challenging situations. However, 100 years ago, a small group of Japanese immigrants simply hoped to create a place where they could gather to hear the Buddha Dharma. That continues beyond the generations. Their aspirations have been passed down from generation to generation. Today, people from many different cultural backgrounds visit the temple. You can see the next who are sitting next to you, like this place, to welcome everyone with warmth and compassion. When we look back on the history, we realize that what has sustained this temple is not simply its buildings. It is a teaching that has been passed down for more than 1 century. This is a teaching of Buddhism. And with that, using the rest time, I'd like to begin the introduction of the basic Buddhism and the Jodo Shinshu tradition which our spiritual mind is deeply connected from Japan. So, the basic teachings of Buddhism. I imagine that each one of you here today, you came because you have some curiosity about Buddhism. Perhaps you have heard about meditation, kindness, how even you practice already yourself, or maybe simply you are interested in different culture. Everyone is welcome. Buddhism began over 2,500 years ago with Shakyamuni Buddha in India. Since then, his teachings have spread throughout the world, and today it is considered as one of the world religions. To be honest, Buddhism is a teaching that becomes richer the more life you experience. Speaking of myself, I recently just turned 33 years old, as you see. I still have much to learn about life and many things. But one of the beautiful things about Buddhism is that it doesn't matter how old you are, where you come from, or what kind of cultural background you came from. All of us share the same human experience. We are born, we grow older, we encounter joy or disappointment, and one day we will all face death. Because these experiences are universal truths, the Buddha's teachings are open to everyone. At its foundation, Buddhism teaches three basic truths. Everything is constantly changing. Nothing in this world is permanent or unchanging. And when we awaken to these truths and truly accept, we discover genuine and lasting peace. In other words, attaining enlightenment or nirvana. The first point is probably we don't need to spend much time proving, because every day we experience seeing these changes. Children grow, our bodies age, and many things so on. But the second teaching is actually more challenging for us, because we naturally long for things that never change. For instance, we want love that never fades, we want wealth that never runs out, we want life lasting forever. In many ways, this is a painful truth, which is eventually they decay or disappear, and is slipped from our hands. No matter how, the truth is that expecting permanence is like expecting never to feel hungry. No matter how satisfying today's meal, eventually we become starving again. And this cycle repeats. The Buddha taught that what makes us starving comes from our attachment to the false permanence or understanding about the world. We are distorted. We cling to the hope that things should never change, even though change is the very nature of life itself. Buddhism calls this attachment bono, or blind passion in English. our blind passions becomes the cause of many forms of suffering. For this reason, Buddhist practitioners throughout history sought a way to free themselves from these attachments. Through their practice, they aspire to awaken to the truth for permanent peace that never fades. After Shakyamuni Buddha, many different Buddhist traditions developed. As a result, Buddhism offered many paths and many traditions or even many forms to deal with this problem. Some people may have success in yoga, others may gradually deepen their understanding over many years or over life. And there are also many people who sincerely wish to live a good life, but find themselves unable to devote themselves completely to rigorous practice because of the high demands for attaining nirvana. Yet, a priest eventually noticed an important thing, which is the profound truth that brought revolutionary interpretation as to the path for nirvana by simply realizing that the Buddha's compassion never abandoned the people. Here, our tradition belongs to is a traditional Japanese Buddhist school called Jodo Shinshu, or known as Shin Buddhism in the Western world. Our tradition teaches that Amida Buddha has already prepared a path to nirvana that is open to all beings who can do the practice, or even, or perhaps rather, who cannot practice for themselves. Jodo Shinshu is one of the major Japanese Buddhism. It was established by a monk whose name is Shinna in 13th century. He devoted his life to sharing Amida Buddha's wisdom and compassion with ordinary people, because the subject of the compassion goes toward those people. Before Shinna's time, Buddhism was often considered as a path mainly for monks or for those who had enough resources to devote themselves. But Shinna's teaching, what he realized was that Buddha's compassion is not limited nor conditional, favored by limiting the certain people. This profound way is open to all beings. We gather here to listen to the teaching and to live each day with gratitude for Amida Buddha's boundless wisdom and compassion. That is a practice for Jodo Shinshu followers, and the reason why this temple was established. In Jodo Shinshu, one of the most important practice is simply listening. It seems easy, but doing is difficult. If I were asked to summarize the Jodo Shinshu in just one sentence, as I said, Jodo Shinshu is a path of discovering myself by listening. To open our ears to this teaching, let me ask you a question. What do you think about your true self? What do you think about your true self? I'm not asking about your appearance, your profession, your accomplishments, or anything like them. Think back to what we discussed earlier about blind passion, bonbon. I describe them as our attachments to things by wishing nothing never change, and the suffering that follows from our self-centered desire. Please think about it. Among all the things we cling to, what is the hardest things we let them go? Is it our career? Is it our wealth? Is it our reputation? Or even our spouse? So, according to Buddhism, none of these is actually our deepest concern. The hardest thing to let go is our ego, our mind. We want to grasp, never limited from us. As long as our ego remains at the center of our lives, it becomes difficult to see reality clearly. Distortion. So Shinran Shonin established his teaching based on a solid assumption of that by defining the human nature as inevitable condition carrying those states. When Shinran spoke of it, he was referring to this aspect of ourselves. That's why he referred us as ordinary beings who hardly free themselves from their blind passion. Per his deep and insightful discovery, it voluntarily opened the space to observe what the Buddha truly revealed for all beings out of the great compassion. In our tradition, we understand Shakyamuni Buddha as a transmitter who conveyed another Buddha's presence. Amida Buddha is mentioned in the Pure Tradition Sutra, along with how this Buddha is saving all beings. Amida Buddha made a vow never to leave ordinary people behind, regardless of who they are and what kind of burdens they carry on. Only one condition for it is to have us fully entrusting to the Buddha's profound power without any doubt, and reaches out throughout the world. And how the Buddha is saving us actually. Amida Buddha established this vow eons of times ago and reaches out throughout the world along with its character of the supreme infinity of life and light. Out of gratitude for this boundless compassion, the followers of Jodo Shinshu express their gratitude in recitation of Amida Buddha's name. We say it Namo Amida Butsu as a Nembutsu, wherever and wherever we can acknowledge this throughout activity as we are aware of our existential condition and also the Buddha's unconditional power. For that, we chant the Nembutsu, not for the prayer. We express our heart of gratitude and trusting to Amida Buddha. We are not perfect beings, but we can live with gratitude, humility, and kindness toward others. These acts are not compensation, to excuse our imperfectness. Rather, this is the way, hoping to live along with the Buddha's teaching, living in gratitude and appreciate everything we receive. That is the heart of our faith here at this temple. In Jodo Shinshu school, to be a Buddhist is a path of learning genuine compassion, cultivating humility, and living each day with gratitude for the immeasurable wisdom and compassion. So this is our creators, how we treat them. So if today's introduction has sparked your interest, I sincerely hope you will visit us again for another of our Sunday service or Dhamma class. We will be delighted to continue learning together with you. So actually, it's past my given time. If you have questions or comments, I'm happy to hear from the floor.
I have a few questions.
Yes.
First of all, what time is your service?
Oh, my service is 3:45.
Every Sunday?
Oh, Sunday service. Oh, excuse me. Sunday service is at 10 a.m. Every Sunday. Yes, every Sunday. Yes.
And then you said you were sent to this temple
Yes.
so I'm Catholic, and so we know about the pastors going around. So is it something similar to that? You'll spend some time here and then get shipped to somewhere else?
Actually, to your question, yes, and partially maybe slightly different because I grew up from the temple family. My father is a Buddhist priest, and it's ancestry, the traditions. So my initial motivation for me to become this overseas missionary is my great grandfather was a Buddhist priest as well in Sacramento in 1920s. Then I was sparked for pursuing the same path after him. Then I kind of wanted to become the overseas ministry. Then I applied for the window. So after through the training, then I became here. Because our organization's name is Nishi Honganji, the tradition. So it's a worldwide organization covering the Canada, Hawaii, Mexico as well. Specifically, as to this country, there is a sister organization which is called the Buddhist Churches of America. Throughout the nation, there are 60 Buddhist churches and temples, and there are currently 30 active full-time ministers, and more than 100 ordained ministers. They're helping out as a part-time, and also there are assistants who keeps the temple running.
So how long will you be here in Salinas?
Here, so I came last October, so 9 months.
But how long will you stay?
Oh, here? I will stay here as long as possible. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so transfer happens, that's why I was transferred from the previous temple. So those decisions are made by bishop of our organization. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yeah. So I'm gonna be staying around here. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to receive that directly because I don't want to pin you here because there are many performance and stage that there's something fun for you. So anyway, again, thank you so much for stopping by this temple. I sincerely hope you enjoy our own festival till the end. Thank you.
Thank you.